Yes. Phares, uko tayari?
Niko tayari.
So I think we'll just start. By the way, Sisi, we just start Mwaf.
Sini ni sawa.
Tuko
Sio
sawa,
mimi
si ndio?
nakwambia iko nene. So it's
Eko nene.
so also just start.
But thanks, gents, for making time for this.
Yeah.
Maybe just to give the audience a bit of insight, about 2 months ago, we had a data center tour where the Econini subscribers came.
Yes.
The Econini family came. Kim will put up a picture over here, all of us.
Yeah.
Now, I think the first 2 hours was spent mostly talking about data centers and what we expect the future to look like. But then the last hour of the tour, Phares talked for an uninterrupted 1 hour with Mwaf.
Yes.
About the political nature of Kenya.
Political history.
The political history of Kenya.
Yes.
Now, recently, following up to that, I posted a reel and Farid, and again, this was the rhetoric I shared from that conversation. And we'll put up, Kim, we'll let the reel play over here and we'll let the audience judge.
Is it possible that Ruto is being so strategic that he is saying, okay, I'm going to take the bullets for 5 years because I'm going to fix some systemic issues in the country? Is that a possibility? Because you raised it in the last podcast,
I did,
and we were going off about, no, that, this should be this way.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we have to go through the hardships now for this country to be a middle-income country, which is what we've been promised since Moi's time, since Moi left power? We've been promised to become a middle-income country since then. Now we're going on 25 years. Is it possible that we have to go through this?
So that rhetoric is actually, it's come back to me now. The fact that you're saying it, it's starting to make the waves. The one who gave me that rhetoric was Phares Kariuki. He's a cloud guru, one of my closest industry friends. And he's just obsessed with whatever's going on. And he's trying to say that if you actually compare like for like what's going on right now, ignore the noise, right? In terms of cost of certain products, in terms of like, look at farmers and what they've been compensated with. If you look at the Somali population and the benefits they've received, things have generally improved. If you look at the dollar price and what he's trying to do, we were drowning before. And all he's trying to do is basically find a place to take that water out. Now, it may go in someone else's pool and they'll start screaming, but he's trying to look at the bigger picture, which is rhetoric that I have seen now come up. And the fact that you're saying it means it's making the words wrong.
I just feel like my mind is being, I don't want to say changed. I just feel like I'm starting to understand why we have to go through what we're going through.
The hate I started getting. And it was just a question. And the question was, is Ruto possibly doing a good job? Because we've sort of put him in this bracket that he's a demon, he's this, he's that. But then the conversation we were having was, if you compare the previous presidents and what they had and some of the local inhabitants and the benefits they have, it's not all cut and dry. You can't just say Ruto's this. So that's why I wanted you to hear, because Mwaf does a lot of political talks and he's also, as a fellow podcaster, the amount I've seen the comments, this guy gets a lot of hate, but he has thick skin. So something I can learn. And from you, Phares, kuna knowledge pool hapo that I want to tap into, and I want the audience to also sort of be aware of what the conversations we're having. And again, these are opinions shared by 3 blokes.
Yes.
And I want to start, like, Phares, you've come up with a very with a rich tapestry, a document. I want to start at where would you like to start from this? Because it's a very wide topic.
So number one, I'd like to clarify my stance.
Yeah.
It's a complicated and nuanced topic. I was unfortunately reduced to a soundbite. So you complicated my social life. That clip was just being posted in WhatsApp groups, and then suddenly I was being attacked on all fronts. And I found myself like really going back and looking at like the economic data for like the first 3 years of Ruto versus the economic data of the first 3 years of Kibaki and what have you. The thing is, I feel that the core challenge in Kenya is not whether or not Ruto is good. I think that's a very secondary matter.
Yes.
I feel that we do not know our history. And so we have this very rose-tinted view of the past.
Yes.
And that prevents us from being able to fully interpret what we're saying in the present, because that past is what led us here. And we have this tendency to forgive certain actors' sins based on background or perception,
Yes.
and then over vilify other actors based on the same thing. And what I observed is like people didn't know, like when you go to Wikipedia today and start looking at Kenya's history, you know, our first terror attack in this country was an MP being killed.
What?
Yes.
When was this?
1976.
Which MP?
JM Kariuki.
Oh, okay.
They were trying
okay.
to kill him, so they blew up a bus
Oh, okay.
in the
yes.
city center, UTC.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
at that
the
time,
OTC explosion. Okay. Yes.
And people remember a shoe was thrown at the president at some point. There was an attempt to stone the first president. 100 people were killed. They opened fire into the
Kisumu.
crowd.
Yes.
Wait. Let's back up.
Yeah.
This actually happened. You're being
Yes.
serious.
Yeah.
There's-
Kisumu.
both of these are actually on the list of massacres in Kenya.
So they were trying to get rid of him. Why was he? Because he was anti-establishment
He
at that
basically
time.
came in. JM Kariuki was the original Ruto in terms of his the masses versus the people.
Yes.
This wheelbarrow ETC, that was exactly the movement he came in. He was like, Kenya is a country of 10 millionaires and 10 million paupers.
Yes.
So he was a beneficiary because like the similarities in Kenya, history rhymes. This guy was, I think, Kenyatta's PA or something. And then like, he was like Gachagua, so to speak. He worked for the president. He'd done some work for the president, became an MP. And then started rallying against the injustice of the time. And then the government of the day decided that this guy needs to go. And the solution initially was to blow him up. And so they knew that he was going to be getting into a bus. I think he was going to Dar es Salaam or something. And they decided that the state decided that the solution is to blow him up. You can actually find the New York Times article on this. And they blew him up, and I think 28 or 29 people died.
And he was not on the bus.
He was not on the bus. Then they found him later and killed him. Anyway. So he succeeded eventually, but like there was this collateral damage that has gone. I am not saying, what I'm trying to put is that our history.
Yeah.
So, and then one of the things I covered was, if you start looking at the death of people we view as other, they're even higher.
Okay.
So what we need is two things. We need to have a good education on our political economy and our political history.
So on the political history front, you noted some good points. One of the main things was that you said initially Kenya was an apartheid
It's
state.
effectively some form of apartheid state. This is a byproduct of colonialism. And so there's, in the document I shared, there's a book by Mahmoud Mamdani, the father of the guy who's running for New York mayor, Zoran Mamdani. And he wrote a couple of books. One of them was When Victims Become Killers, which covered like what happened in Rwanda.
Yeah.
And it kind of touches on what happened in Kenya to some extent with the genocide. Because in Rwanda, 8,000 people have been killed every day for 1,000 days. So the sum total was 800,000 or something. But you see, such headlines capture our attention. But Kenya has been a meat grinder of a country. We never really have 800,000 deaths in an instant. But we'll have 5,000 here, 10,000 there. Every year, 500, 1,000, etc. People are still being killed in this thing. So the point he was making is that the colonial states in Kenya, in Africa in general, is bifurcated. And then in Kenya, it's a bit more complicated. And the reason why I say it's some form of apartheid, it's not as, explicit as Kikuyu cannot walk past, Kikuyu or Luo cannot walk past this place. But when you look at how the state has treated certain people,
those benefits come up.
So now the whole thing that Mamdani wrote in Citizen and Subject is that you have this state that has two actions. And in Kenya, I don't know if you guys noticed that there was a call to get rid of the provincial administration. So the urban areas and the wealthy areas experienced democracy. So in Nairobi, we voted for a mayor, we voted for a councillor, we voted for an MP, and they were responsive to us. But in rural areas, there was the provincial administration. So the relationship between, so the state was urban democratic, rural oppressive. So if you think about it, if you get into a road accident on Gong Road, just at Dagoretti corner,
Yes.
where do you think you report the matter? You actually cannot go to Riruta police station, which is the closest police station. You can either report it in Karen or in Muthangari.
Muthangari, yeah.
So even where the traffic locations were, think about it, all the cop stations that could handle traffic were in wealthier areas. And then the poorer areas got either a police force that was purely for just domestic and other legal issues, and you'd not have DCI or CID as they were called at the time. And then the really poor areas, Kibera has a chief's camp.
Yeah.
You got the administration, police. So the administration, and then even your interaction with them, traffic police never carried guns. So those are the people the wealthy will deal with on a daily basis, or the police stations in these other areas. But you go to an AP, that guy will shoot you dead. And that's sort of, so when you now look at how people interacted with cops
Back then.
outside of the city,
Yeah.
and we were in the same country. But if you lived in Lavington, you have a very friendly experience with police. Maybe if you're paying a bribe, etc. If you're in Kibra, there was this young man who was killed called Carlton or something, some years back, who was a UK student. And cops opened fire on some kids in Kibra. And the only reason we actually threw a fit was because he was a student in the UK. But that should tell you that the guys living in Kibra are killed every day and nobody actually raises anything. So this is the same country.
But
So you have sort of like one rule for the wealthy, and if you look at urban areas, they're very democratic and very active.
Yeah.
But you look at rural areas, they have lost faith, and that's why they will sell their vote, because for them the state has never mattered.
Yeah.
And it's only now that there's devolution that they are concerned with their governors. But when it comes to the national government, it always hits them from an oppressive angle, not a responsive angle. And then now, the second part of this quasi-apartheid thing I'm saying, what was the main plaint with colonialism? If you ask a Kikuyu, what was the main plaint with colonialism? It is that a white person decided that the African does not know what they have in their land.
Yes.
And we can do better. Post-independence, Maina Wanjigi was the one doing the land allocation, etc. And there was like, this is public domain. People in places like Tana River and Lamu apparently asked the state for tractors. And the government of the day said, instead of giving you tractors, we will take your land and give it to Kikuyus who will farm it. Why is it that Kikuyus are perfectly okay with land that belongs to Maasais or Kalenjins, etc.? So you now have the Kikuyus did not lose any land post-independence. And then now you've got this weird detente that Kikuyus have with Kalenjins, because now the Kalenjins have lost their land. And to prevent what happened in 1992 and 2007, Kikuyu and Kalenjins have been sort of dancing around leadership with each other.
Yeah.
And you look at the history of Kenya, it perfectly rhymes. You have, in the 70s, in the 60s, Kenyatta and Odinga fall apart. Kikuyu and the Luo fall apart. Then they go for peace in the arms of the Kalenjin, who becomes the Vice President Daniel Moi, who becomes the next president.
Yeah.
Yes.
2002, Odinga and Raila fall apart. Kenyatta ties up with Ruto.
So,
Here we are. And both of them both Moi and Ruto came at the decline of the economy from like Kenyatta's, basically. But no, the reason why I bring that up is a lot of these issues around land are because some communities have been favored over others. Some communities have been given more land resources. Now, I am not blaming the Kikuyu citizen because they also had their land taken. They're also victims of the state. Because you look at places like Tatu City, all these cities that have come out in the fringe of the city do not exist in any other community, because that land has remained in the ancestral hands. But in Central, a lot of that land was taken over by now the elites post-independence. But then now they had a new problem. Like when you go to, you've driven through Kiambu Ring, Tigoni, and you see all these massive farms, was ancestral land that belonged to several in the Kikuyu community. And then you look at places like Del Monte, etc.
Yeah.
There's quite an amount of land that was never really returned to this community. And some elites took it up, some companies, etc. There's some mess there. Why do other communities need to pay for it? Because then the problem became, what do we do with the Kikuyus we have? Where do we take them? Then the question becomes, so now you take land in another community. And so what Moi did to prevent this mess is he goes into the Mau forest, which now has other ecological issues. So people in Narok are now unhappy with that. But the original sin was one community was viewed as they cannot miss their land. And the core problem, but they're not the only community that got land stolen from them. Because the elites at the time took land in Taita Taveta, struck deals with the British government, a bunch of guys, all those conservancies in the Laikipia area. So many people, and that's where there's conflict as we speak between Samburus and the owners of this, what do you call them, the conservancies. Because you effectively have a large chunk of this country that after independence never got back their land. Yeah, and that's been the tricky thing.
So forgive my ignorance, but I mean, I know land issues are still persistent, but you, Mwaf, and you can even step in. Do we still see this being a very critical issue? Is there a fight for it? Is there any movement on the political side to make sure what was done then is corrected now? Ama, it's buried under the carpet.
I'd be lying to say that I've followed up on the land issue, because I know I've always known about Rift Valley and the way like the Kikuyus had to move to Rift Valley, and this was mostly because Kenyatta was grabbing land his idea. So that's what I know about that.
Okay.
I also know that the conflict now in 2007, when all that came up, it was because Kalenjins felt like this is our land. You guys came to our space. Like, you need to go back to where you're from. So I know that side, but do I know if it's being solved? Because on the Luo side, I don't think the elites grabbed.
No, they
like,
didn't.
Yes,
They didn't
so
participate.
So it's never been an issue.
So within the
that
Luo
other side.
community, there was no.
Them, the ancestral land went back. Like this was the thing is the very land that was grabbed by the very land that was grabbed by the Brits. Was the same land that was grabbed again by a new elite.
Okay. So the way I want to approach this out, because I'm learning about politics as well, and forgive me, I know my ignorance. I've seen it in the comments. I've been commenting. So
see, you need to come up with a land where you send people with bullshit comments.
Those Jugu motherfucking guys.
Yes.
We send them all over there.
On Nikonini, I call it Kajitombe. Like, just go there and chill. Like, we can't always agree on everything. And people expect this to be an echo chamber where you just show up and we tell you what you're thinking. You see, like, even right now, I'm learning like so much from Phares. So we might look at stuff differently.
Correct.
But we listen to each other. If we agree, sawa. If we disagree, we disagree. So sijali jao, they'll always talk shit. I think if you tell people what they don't want to hear, they'll be angry. Because people want you to just wash a microphone, sema Ruto ni mbaya, say it 10 times.
Yeah, in fact, I think you've also got those comments that you and I have been bought out by Ruto.
Mi Ruto akinibai watu watajua.
We'll see the new Mercedes outside.
The new Mercedes. Bado hajanibai. So we'll just keep giving different opinions. I think, don't worry about that. That's always going to be there.
So I want to approach this categorically. Also, just forget the view, but for my learning experience. I want to start with Kenyatta. There are a few points that I have. And then I want to go on to Moi, and then Kibaki, and then Kenyatta back, and then Ruto, and sort of do a comparison. And I know you and Phares are both very heavily involved in this, so you'll give opinions. But before that, there was another reel we posted as well, and I want your comments on how true this is. So the first reel and second reel we did also got a lot of traction, and it did pretty well. But there's very mixed reviews on it.
Yes.
And the reel went on to say, and we can play it up over here for people to watch, and then they can make their own decision.
And I got in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it again. If you complain about Kenya, just go West Africa.
Go any, but I used to say this all the time. And this is going back 15, 17 years. And when I was working heavily for Mnet, I must have traveled to 20 countries.
Over Africa?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty interesting.
Burundi, Nigeria, Ghana, Chad once, Ethiopia, Eritrea.
Okay.
And I used to always say, this is like going back like 15, 17 years ago when Nairobi was not like this. If you want to appreciate Nairobi as a city, go to other cities in Africa.
You have
With the exception of South Africa.
Yeah.
What else do you have, really?
No, I 100% agree with you. In fact, one of the reels we did, I think, Kim, that got like nearly a million views, yeah? Just by saying, for those of us that say Kenya is just go to our neighboring countries.
Yeah.
But what we were saying was, if people are complaining about Kenya, just go beyond Kenya. Look at East Africa.
Yes.
Look at West Africa. We are in a privileged position. However, some folks commented that you're saying it from a position of privilege as well.
Okay.
Because if you talk about Kibra, if you talk about the points you just raised, Kenya is not so rosy.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree with my sentiment? Do you think we have a lot of catching up to do?
Yeah, actually, we are. My sentiment. I understand what you're trying to say, and I don't entirely disagree. But it's a single story.
Yeah.
So how do I put this? My experience, if I travel to Dubai, my experience of Dubai is not the same as that person who's been exported for labor in Dubai.
Yes.
We have very
different.
different experiences of that same country.
Yeah.
Most of the time when we travel, we do business travel, we are very sheltered. And so we are comparing business environments. So, it's like when I travel to Uganda, I've been to Uganda nearly 20 times, 10 to 20 times, I can't remember.
Yes.
Only once have I stayed with a friend. That friend lived in Kololo. Kololo is almost like
Like a Mutaiga, no?
Mutaiga garden estate kind of place.
Okay.
The rest of the time I stayed in hotels, business hotels. And so that was my initial experience of Kampala. So I can't tell you what it feels like to live in Kampala as a Ugandan citizen. And I can't also do the same for Tanzania because my experience is neutered. But there are people who actually travel to these countries and live there and immerse themselves, which gives them a better understanding. The thing that I keep saying is we have a narrow view of the region, the continent as a whole. And that's why I think we view our country as better at times. In terms of modern amenities and all of that, we do have them. In terms of human development, quality of life, I am not convinced we're the best place to be.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. In Africa?
I'm not convinced.
Which countries?
Maybe
Do you
South
think?
Africa?
You see, the thing is, for instance, there are small things about Kenya, which is why I get irritated. People forget that, like in Kenya, if you are here, this Gen Z do not know this Kenya. Your freedoms are, let me put it this way. I remember traveling to Europe and the US. And like one of the first things I noticed was I could go a day without speaking to someone. Because I don't have watchmen everywhere. Like I don't have to have an interaction to move around. In Kenya, how many forced interactions are there?
A lot.
Because we screwed up with our security. We have gates everywhere. So everywhere I'm driving, there's a watchman. I'll give you a very simple example. Today, I interacted with what is one of the most irrational watchmen I've ever come across. I go into I was going to the conservatoire. I get to the conservatoire and she rushes to tell me where to park. And I'm like, okay, I need to get something from my boot, so then I'll go park there. So this is like 2 parking spaces over.
Yeah.
And then she's like, no, I want you to move your car now because I want this other vehicle to come here. And it's like this it's a petty tyrant. And watchmen have become petty tyrants. And they are part of our lives, but to measure. We have no walkable roads. So when you start thinking about things like that, you go to places like even Harare, you go to places like
Rwanda,
Accra,
Kigali. Kigali.
you don't have to have all these forced interactions. Public transport is better. Air is cleaner. Like it's not
Harare.
just
Okay.
That's surprising,
You
yeah.
learn
It's
something
actually-
every day, man.
Harare is actually a fairly like it's beginning to fall apart. It's been falling apart since like the noughties when the sanctions
Yeah.
started. But in terms of just quality of life, no, I'm not saying income. Like, and
Yes,
that's what I'm
I
saying. Like there are
understand.
multiple things. I
Yeah,
also understand that they're poorer, but we're not the only African economy growing. What we have is we are more cosmopolitan. So we tend to have, if you want, like over here, you have your Munchables, there's Prime downstairs, there's like you have a fairly
You can't get the stuff in Nigeria.
Yeah. So we have that. We have good internet, etc.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say we are the best on the continent.
Mwaf, what's your experience outside of Kenya? I know you've traveled to the US. Obviously, that was a big thing for you. When the first time you went to the US, what was your experience comparing Kenya to that place?
I'd say maybe the place that I first traveled to in the first world was Netherlands.
Yes.
And with Netherlands, I always joke that if you are to tell someone like Sakaja that streets are actually cleaned and people pour water on roads and scrub them clean and leave them, he'd be there like... Because the first time that I experienced that was the Netherlands. Because I think the plane landed at around 4. Then by the time I'm being picked up to be taken to the hotel, it's around 5. And I see these guys on the streets and they're pouring water and just scrubbing, scrubbing the road. And for me, that was something that I'd never seen.
It was like a culture shock, right?
Yes, it was like a culture shock. Then I always give people the story of I enter this train and this pointy girl just showed up and put her feet, like her shoes, on the couch, and she was just holding herself like this. And I'm like, if I'm to enter my tree and just step on it, that would be unakanyaga, unachafua. So I remember looking at that, and then another thing that I realized is I didn't see the police. I stayed there for like 9 days.
You never saw the police.
And the only time I saw the police was once qua some highway. And that showed me like the level of security in that country, that you don't have to walk around. You see, like the way when you walk around Kenya, you see this police with these very big guns walking around. So that was one experience that stood out to me. Then Majuzi, now last year, like E059 fans did something, so I ended up in the US. I always shout them out.
That's amazing though. The trip Mwaf was saying, the E059 fans.
Yeah. So now I'm in the US and I'm with this like friend of mine. Like we've known each other through the pod, so now we've become friends. And he's driving and I'm on the phone. And then naturally, because I'm from Kenya, I decide to roll up the window. Then I remind myself like, shit, I'm not in Kenya. Phones are safe in this country. You see? So you look at all these things where if you're in Kenya, every time kuchukua simu, hata vile, like I was coming to this studio, when I was downstairs, I had to check and make sure there's no boda guy anywhere because they snatch phones.
Before you tried calling.
Yes, I don't know if you saw the video that was going around this week where boda guy dropped someone and the person was going to pay them, and then he goes, gets momentum, comes, snatches the phone of the client and left with it. You didn't see it? Because I think it was an Indian guy gone there. It was
You've seen that video,
a Sajid.
Maybe it was a Sajid.
It was a Sajid.
We can put it up over here, maybe.
So when you look at all these things, now you go to the first world and you realize that people don't even worry about phones and walking around. Like I remember joking about like gun violence in America. And there's this still a friend of mine still based in the US. So we are there in Colorado and it's at night, and he asks me, right now, if I asked you to walk and go there, would you feel safe? And I told him yes. Then he told me like, but you're the guy who normally says America is dangerous. Would you feel the exact same level of safety if you're in the middle of nowhere in Nairobi?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. So there are all these things that eventually you look at us as a society and you realize we have so much insecurity. We have all these things, but we've normalized them. We've normalized the fact that if I go to town and I pick up my phone, it can be snatched. And it's not news. There's no one who's going to say the level of insecurity in Nairobi.
Like we're just used to it.
We're used to it and we've accepted it.
It's a little more, I agree, but it's a little more complex, and it keeps harking back to the thing I've been saying.
Yeah.
So I've actually seen roads being cleaned in Nairobi.
Yeah.
When Moi was going somewhere.
Oh.
Like if he was coming to like a school or something.
Whenever Moi was going somewhere, they used to clean.
They cleaned the roads, they tarmac the roads, etc. I'm not sure if it was the same for Kenyatta. But there's something funny about the cops, which is why we have insecurity. Kenyans are both over and under policed.
Yes.
And so I remember when I was a kid, it was a day we lived in a government institution. My dad used to teach. And one day we wake up and a bunch of cars have been stolen from, like they've stolen tires, they've stolen radios, they've stolen like a bunch of things.
This was in the 80s?
No, in the early 90s.
Yeah, still
That's when I discovered police could actually take fingerprint samples Like the CID showed up with that place, took prints, took statements, took everything. Like it was properly investigated. I never really thought much about that until later on when one of our family, like somebody who was tangentially known to our family, was robbed. And they do nothing. So the administration police do not investigate crimes. So you go to a place like Kibera, you've got police everywhere, but they're not there to solve your crimes. They're there to enforce order. And so we've never created the infrastructure for the police to actually serve the citizen, because a bulk of our police force is actually oppressive, not investigative.
It's a very unique point.
APs, administration. huh?
APs.
And most guys don't go to court, etc. And we still do not have enough budget funding for the judiciary. Because a lot of these issues start being solved if we as a country care about our neighbor. And by caring about your neighbor, I don't mean going to hug your neighbor. I mean thinking about a country that can actually work for everyone. Because the reason why people do not have income is because this country doesn't work from a political economy perspective, doesn't work for most. How do we put in place those reforms? When you start trying to put in place those reforms, the people who have wealth or power push back and the reforms don't go through. And so we still have an extractive state where you have a few rich people and a ton of poor people. And what you're seeing is a consequence of that. Because if our judiciary worked well, something as simple as careless driving will go away. Because you'd have full liability. And that liability is what has forced many people globally. Like, I'll give you an example. There's this guy in the US who I think he was sentenced to death or life in prison or something. Because the guy missed an off-ramp. Because, like with trucks, if it's not in gear, you can't stop that thing. So when it goes into runaway mode, they've put these exits which a truck can use. And even in Kenya, they've started using them. But basically, it's a hill which is not paved. So as it goes up, the hill naturally slows down the truck. And it rolls back pole pole. Then now when it's stationary, you can now put it back in gear and continue with your journey. So the guy missed one of those, then proceeded to hit traffic, and a bunch of guys were killed. That guy was arrested, prosecuted. But what normally happens is, in Kenya, we are very good at passing around externalities to other people. So when you funniest is this, anybody who imports a Mazda CX-5 right now, the first thing you're told to do is do a thing called DPF delete if it's a diesel.
DPF?
Delete.
What is that?
What's that?
Diesel cars, I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a diesel car.
Yeah.
But you can't tell because it doesn't smoke.
Yes.
Because it has a diesel particulate filter. But guys are like, hiyo kitu that thing will itasumbua gari. So the first thing they do is to make it easier so that maintenance is simpler, you remove it. But what does that do? It passes on fumes to everyone else. So now your maintenance problem has become a air quality problem for society. But in the markets where it is, you cannot drive that car without a DPF. But here you're like, that thing will sumbua me.
So did you remove yours?
No, I've never. It's been.
Remove.
Yeah, but people, that's the first thing. Like you check on Twitter, check on TikTok, wherever. First thing you're told is remove the DPF. We have this thing where we pass on consequences to other people, and we never really properly enforce our contracts and all of these other things.
Yeah.
And so it creates this microcosm of dysfunction. And so that's what I'm saying. Like the police thing, all of these things are interlinked. If we actually cared about our neighbors, we'd want a good police force, good healthcare for everyone, access to water. I've been talking about the way people jokingly describe these buildings as vertical slums. But they're not there by chance. They're there because for a very long time, certain parts of this city had water.
Yes.
Certain parts did not. And as the population grew, pressure for the places with water has gone up. Which is why you're seeing the skyscrapers in places like Parklands, Kilimani, Kileleshwa. The core problem is you have a population of 10 million people in the greater Nairobi metro area, 9 to 10 million people. The greater Nairobi metro area is Kiambu,
yeah.
Ruiru, all these other places. Looking for housing. That's nearly a fifth of our population. But the places with serviced land, with good schools, they're limited. And so pressure mounts. and these skyscrapers come in. But if you were to solve that problem, you'd have ensured that places like Uthiru get proper water, that you have proper roads to places like Naivasha, so that people can live and you've got quality schools there. Because people are all, you don't have certain citizens who want illiterate, unwashed children. All citizens want their children to go to the best schools possible, live in the best neighborhood possible, not die of kwashiorkor, not get a waterborne disease. And if you look at the places that offer that as an opportunity, they're limited. Not only nationally, but even within Nairobi, they're limited. And you can see that priced into the land prices and the skyscrapers you're seeing. And that's why I said, if you were good neighbors, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're like, we need an equal country,
Right.
where there's water in Nyanza, there's water in the
Everyone
north,
has
and there's
everything.
water in the south. We'll be fine.
So maybe before we get to the square root of our issues, Kenyatta starting over there, there's you mentioned highway and building. That got me thinking. I recently heard that the Americans were building they got the contract to build the Nairobi Mombasa route. Has that progressed? Has there been anything? Mwaf, have you heard anything?
Because I think I heard that, but because as soon as that came out, people started also, there was some opposition, so I didn't follow up on it. Like, did you follow up? Like, what happened?
On
'Cause
the
a few
opposition,
people-
no. I
there were people
gathered
who are
it's
like,
making
no.
progress.
But if it was Chinese people, they would have built it by now. Like Americans, by the experience of working with Americans, committees, presentations, then they get a consultant to come and do the same, and then they do a board presentation, and then they decide. Remember the expressway? Expressway got done in what, 2 years? Bro, and that was miracle speed.
Yeah.
So I'm going to segue now back to politics, if you gents will allow me.
Yeah.
There's a comment I have over here. Kenyatta was not our first choice. Without Jaramogi, we do not have Kenyatta. Do you guys agree with that?
I think to a certain level, because see, there's the story that Jaramogi was offered the job and he said, I can't take it until Kenyatta is free. Is that how factual is that?
It seems to be
So
fairly
is that
factual.
so? For me, I always look at it from this point of he was not bright politically, because with politics, it's always supposed to be about me. You know, like if I get an opportunity to lead, I'm not saying that Phares might be the more qualified guy, but
Yes.
I'm taking it.
Correct.
Let me just do my thing and then see. Because even if you look at Senegal, the two guys, Sonko and the guy the president right now, what's his name? Because Sonko was, in quotes, the first choice.
Yeah.
But this other guy, if you get the opportunity, just grab it. So he never grabbed his opportunity. So, but we don't know how it have gone, because it said that he was more on the socialism side than the pure capitalism.
Is this the Bassirou Diomaye, president of Senegal, right? That's the guy you're talking about.
Yeah.
So how did Kenyatta stumble into the presidency? Maybe can we just start with
He
that?
didn't exactly stumble into it. So you go back. Effectively, he'd been in the political circles for a while. He'd gone to the UK, etc. He was never, so the thing is, he was never really pro Mau Mau. So if you listen to the guys who were really pro Mau Mau, he was not, but he was kind of respected.
And maybe for context, we can talk about the Mau Mau for those international listeners.
Yeah, so Mau Mau was basically
2% of people in the United States.
Yeah.
So Mau Mau was a movement to get rid of the British in Kenya.
The freedom fighters.
Yeah. There's a lot that's not been told. Like, in particular, the British were not good people. In as much as the Mau Mau were made to sound like terrorists, what the British did in Kenya was so bad that they destroyed the records. Like, they basically said, you can never find out what we did. It's like one of the few instances where the British have actually actively destroyed and burnt the records.
Really, yeah?
If you go to the Mau Mau Wikipedia page, like, I cannot actually repeat what they did. But if you go to the Wikipedia page and you read it, you will be shocked. So it was insane, what they were doing here. So the Mau Mau were basically armed resistance. And they started killing both white families and cooperators. Cooperators are the ones who took the brunt in the neck. There was a massacre in the 50s, Larry massacre, killed an entire village of cooperators. And the British responded and all of this. But Kenyatta, when the Mau Mau emergency happened in the 50s, people don't realize, but the abdication of the former king is what led to the unusually oppressive response. Because effectively the queen was here. The queen was in Kenya.
Yes.
when she became queen, and then now you have this chaos, and that sort of escalated everything. The challenge was that I can't remember the exact detail, but I think Kenyatta just got caught up in we are rounding up all the Kikuyu leaders, because I remember explicitly reading his anti-Mau Mau stance like repeatedly.
Okay.
He was for like, let's talk, let's figure this thing out, but other people in Mau Mau were like, you know what,
Kaende,
this,
kaende.
yeah, kufa dereva kufa makanga. This thing we're doing it through force. He was never like a really force person when it came to like how Africans are going to get rid of the Brits. Jury is out on who was right, because effectively the British were, after the end of World War II, America didn't want to have another power cosplaying as powerful. So they basically told the British that you need to get rid of your colonies for us to give you reconstruction aid. So the Marshall Plan funds were tied to decolonization. So there's a school of thought that if, we just waited, we'd have gotten independence. But that remains to be seen. Like we never actually went down that path, so we can't
tell.
know for sure.
Okay. There's another statement over here that in relation now to the other presidents, that both Moi and Ruto rose on the back of Kikuyu treachery towards the Luo and the need for the Kikuyu to find alternative sources. Do you guys agree with that?
Because the Moi thing, I'd look at it from the point of Kenyatta died. So if Kenyatta dies and I'm the vice president, I am supposed to be the next guy.
But then the ability to stay there, how long did Moi stay for? Was it
24 years?
24 years.
Yeah, stay there for 24 years. So the first 14, and then constitution changed and he ran for another 10. And that's the tactic that I felt like Ruto was trying to do.
Yeah.
See, when people are talking about us changing the constitution so that the presidents run for 7 years, the way I look at it is Ruto trying to do the same thing. Like, let me run for 10 years. Then if you change the constitution 7, I can be like, no, these are different constitutions. I can run again. And then you get your 24 years.
Is he trying to do that right now?
Akina Cherargei are trying to do that. So if you look at Akina Cherargei, I'm there like, of course, if you see a dog barking, you look for the owner, and the owner has to be Ruto. So I look at it that way. But I don't think, with Moi, I don't think I'd look at it that way with the Kikuyu treachery. And also, even with Ruto was voted in by mostly Kikuyus and Kalenjins. So you understand? So I think with both situations, I think that's for me, I think it's simplistic to look at it that way. But
my view is actually a bit different. With the loss of the Luo community, Kenyatta needed another community to sort of marshal. And he'd done that already. Like he'd usurped Kadu.
Yes.
And Moi had two things going for him. One, he was from the Kalenjin community. But number two, and this is something that there was a conversation that was once between, I read about it, Moi and I think it was Mbiu Koinange, when Moi was being promoted. And Kenyatta basically said, Moi has been to every single corner of this country. Where have you been?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there was also the fact that from like, Moi was hardworking and he was everywhere. Yeah. And he was remarkably, people look at his audio from like the latter days, but he was fairly articulate at the time as well. And so that situation ended like that. Moi basically held on for the next, I think it was 13 years.
How old were you guys during Moi's era?
I was born in the Moi era, so
because I was born in 80.
Yeah.
Is it true they used to give free milk?
I got I couldn't that milk.
This was KCC.
Yeah, but it was called
you
Nyayo
never
milk.
went to any public school? Yeah, damn, Joe.
Yeah.
Damn.
We used to get it. Man.
Ma, which school did you go to?
Olympic Estate.
Where's that?
Kibra.
Okay, but that was 80s, right?
Yes.
And so they used to give you milk at every
Yeah,
time.
they used to give us milk, but it was, I always talk about it on the podcast, that the way they used to do it was not a good way, because they used to they'd get all these packets of milk, and not every student was given. They'd give the students who are good at something. So if you're good at math, like Olympic Estate was very, like when you think about it later in life, it was not a good school. This was child abuse.
Wait.
Because now you had
experienced child, maybe.
Yeah. So
What's
someone
up?
like me, because I was good in mathematics.
Okay, for
I
me,
used to go like with 4 packets of milk. Sayo watu wengine Hawana even a single packet.
Our milk was.
Phares, how many packets did you get?
I remember
Yeah.
children playing with the milk.
What do you mean playing with the milk?
Because you're brought for so much milk. Some kids just throw like the packet and jump on it and create
Kalikuwa
like
kale kadogo.
Why did the milk stop then? Like what
No,
was
it was never a sustainable
Nyayo.
policy. Because it was on the back of KCC. KCC has no money, so where do you get the milk from?
So it was just government mandated. There was no
Yeah,
like we're going
government.
to pay this much.
Moi tried a lot of stuff because even we think about Nyayo bus. Remember Nyayo
Yeah.
bus?
Yeah.
So Nyayo bus used to be like a cheaper version. So you had KBS.
Yes.
So if KBS was charging 2 shillings, Nyayo bus was charging 1 shilling. And it would be packed. Of course, this was before smartphones. Because I used to oh shit, my smartphone is gone. So
I know it was
yeah, but still people would still lose their wallets.
Yeah.
So at the time people started now hiding money in their genitals and mama wanaingiza huko matiti and
Do both of you look fondly back on those times before the presidency changed from Moi?
No, it's yes
Personally,
and no. But the reason I say yes is because I was an ignorant child. So I didn't know that what I was experiencing was at the cost of other people.
Right.
So
I mean, maybe
it was very idyllic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech at that time. Could you say what you
No,
wanted?
there was nothing.
Good.
I'll tell you a
That's
funny
why
story.
I love right now Kenya.
Funny story.
Cancel culture is just the Instagram
That's
followers.
Instagram. Yes.
I think 5 years ago, one of my dad's friends comes back from Sweden, and came with a pair of very expensive jeans, designer jeans, and like a bunch of other things, and gives them to my dad. And I didn't quite understand why, but turns out that they were colleagues. My dad was a teacher. This guy had written something that the president in the time, in the 80s, was against. And so my dad hid him because we had a Land Rover, what was called a Defender, the equivalent, the 110, Land Rover 110. Managed to hide him in the back of that thing and take him to the airport. And my dad was followed by cops for like God knows how long, and he was arrested. And it became a thing. And this guy was eternally grateful. And he just never came back to the country until like now Kenyatta's term. And so Moi left, he was still a bit too suspicious because remember the VP at the time was Kibaki. So him is listening to Kibaki president, no, I am not coming back to this country. So he came back, I think, in 2017 or 2018, thereabouts, or 2019.
It's been of like 15 plus years?
I was 20 plus.
Yes, 20 plus years.
So it was
It
was nearly 30 years. He happened in the 80s.
Yeah,
like
that's
84.
30 years.
84 to, that was 34 years, yeah.
I think we still do have that, especially very targeted insults at the upper top. You can't just go out directly and criticize it. I mean, some people have disappeared.
No, but it's not as bad as it was at the time. And so this guy basically now went on a search and finally found my mzee and gave him these things. And obviously time has passed, so they ended up with me. But you can imagine.
Okay, which relates to my point during the Mandamano protest. Remember a lot of those influencers that were kidnapped. And there was a politician, the political guy. What's his name? He wears a suit. He's very young.
I know
What happened?
He was
The guy who went
apparently
to
was
Alliance,
kidnapped.
I think.
He was with Raila the other day. What's his name?
The brown guy.
No. The guy has a fro. I think the guy he's talking about has a fro.
He was kidnapped.
Yeah, he said he was
Abducted.
kidnapped. What's his name? He's like a political aspirant.
He's a political
young guy.
Are you talking about Kasmuel?
Kasmuel,
that's the guy.
yes.
Oh, because I thought you were talking about an MP. Yeah. So what did Kasmuel do?
See, he was kidnapped as well, right?
Yes. He said he was abducted. A few people don't believe him. A few people believe him. So it's like out there.
Okay, so my point is all those abductions happened.
Yeah.
And it was all over social media. Maybe the news of abductions didn't happen back then because, again, we didn't have social media.
Oh, no, we knew about it.
Mulikuwa hamna WhatsApp group back then.
People
No?
knew.
Yeah. You just disappear.
You just keep quiet.
Families go show up at the cop station. But people knew.
I always say like one of the most vivid memories I have was as a kid coming from now Olympic Estate. We used to live in Isli. So I used to go to school to Kibra. When it was still Kibera, then Isli. So there used to be number 8. It's number 8 and number 8B.
Yes.
So there's this ones where we are coming from, that community. Tunateremka hivi. Hiyo nchi ya community huitwaga nini? Where you teremka hivi and then doingie like Kenyatta Avenue, going past Serena, blah, blah, blah.
It's a community, and then you're on Kenyatta Avenue.
Yes.
There's no
So hiyo njia ukiteremka hivi the driver
NSSF.
tells us
Yeah.
like kila mtu alale chini because there was the police were fighting with women because ilikuwa ni free political prisoners. So women were there, kuna wale walikuwa wameji strip naked. So now especially for us as kids kunaambia watoto msiangalie nje because now you see like they're saying you'll see an old woman naked and that might be a curse. So that's like one of those vivid memories that I have. That's why I never look at Moi like through those lenses that people want to look at him like he was still like a dictator unajua because those women were whooped like kuko ndo time nywele like braids were being pulled off, they are beaten up kabisa with batons. So and that stayed with me because I was like 12 years old.
So passing the baton, it went from Moi to Kibaki. Now I've heard folks say that Kibaki was actually the president during Kenya's darkest days. And Vice President, sorry. So he was DP actually when Kenya was in its darkest phase.
Yes.
And the notion is, why was he excused? Yeah. What do you guys feel about that?
I think we need to have a consistent lens through which we look at our leaders. It was not impossible to fire DP. We found that out this year. Kibaki was the president at the time when he's the one who passed the rule that Kenya should be a single party state. He was the MP who forwarded that motion.
When he was VP.
Yes. When he was VP, he was also an MP for Thaya. And he said that it will be easier to cut a mugumo tree with a razor blade, a fig tree, sorts, than it is to get rid of Kanu. That was his quote. Our leaders have never... The thing is, when it comes to analyzing our leaders, I'll just dive into a small tangent. The elites have always protected themselves.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. When Jaramogi was pushed out of power in the 70s, Jomo Kenyatta needed to put up gas in his house. And he reached out to one Raila Odinga, who was an engineer, to set up the gas in his house.
Really?
Yes. And that's how Spectre was formed. Spectre was effectively formed out of the Kenyatta's. If I remember correctly, I might be wrong. And we'll do the verification. But that was the context. The elite have always sort of galvanized around each other, and they'll never go after each other. Like, yes, you'll have these public
spots,
but generally, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. It happens. Like Moi was...
They're all at the
Moi
back
didn't
end
care.
together.
Yeah, Moi didn't care.
Okay.
But even Moi, when he began to see that his hold on to power was falling apart, he reached to Raila for the merger in 97.
Right.
And Raila worked with him, even though he's the same Moi who had jailed Raila.
Okay.
So there's a way the system works, and they do not understand it because I'm not powerful enough to understand it. But the point I've been making is, one of the reasons why I say we should not excuse our historical leaders is because we have had multiple massacres in this country.
Yes.
And these massacres have largely gone through all governance. So if you look at Moi, Kenyatta 1, he started what was known as the shifter wars. There was a time they killed like a bunch of people in a mosque during the Friday prayers.
Yeah.
Open fire.
What was this?
This is in the 60s. Isiolo massacre killed over 2,700 people. And there was a Kisumu massacre. I'm actually on Wikipedia right now.
Kisumu massacre was how many? Like
over 100 people.
And this was in the 70s?
69. They opened fire because guys stoned. So there was like a small thing. What happened was, part of this was tribal, part of this was... So Tomboya is killed. Tomboya is a very eloquent Abin MP. He's the one who led to the airlift. Without Tomboya, you don't have Obama, literally. Because he's the one who organized for guys like Obama to go to the US. Obama Senior, Obama's dad. And he was also there marching with Akina Martin Luther King. Like, there are videos of him giving those speeches. So he is born in Thika. but he's Luo. And when he's killed, there's this thing of where will he be buried? So he ends up being buried in his native land because guys from Central are pushing. I might again be wrong with some of this, but I've seen articles to that
Correct.
claim, and so he's buried in where is his mausoleum? Something Rusinga Island.
Rusinga, yeah.
If I'm not wrong.
Yeah. It's
So,
Rusinga, yes.
Meanwhile, while this was happening, there'd already been the falling out between Jaramogi and Kenyatta. But now, the Luo community was very unhappy with how Tomboy had been treated and the fact that he'd been killed and all of this. And Jaramogi always had connections to the east, so Jaramogi goes and gets the USSR to build a hospital in Kisumu somewhere.
It's called Nyanza General. That's why it's
Nyanza
called
General.
Russia.
Yeah. And so, but because it's like a foreign government thing, the president is the one to open it.
Right.
When the guy goes to open it, people start stoning him. And his guards open fire. That was it. Like they just opened fire into the crowd.
What year was this?
1969.
1969, yes. So even the audio is normally there.
So
Like he was when he was on stage, people booed him kidogo. That's the place he's like, come on, Marco. Like he was really angry. The
So
president.
Mwaf, when people say that Ruto is the worst president, and you compare this kind of, if you look at our past, we've not really had these kind of situations where people are being shot at out in public just because of throwing stones or so on and so. In fact, recently someone threw a shoe at him.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if this was the 60s and 70s, those guys would be massacred. And we'll get to Ruto's presidency, but do you think that's a fair assumption?
No, it's not a fair assumption. That's why, like, even on Friday, Kenyatta was launching the Jubilee thing, and he said that Kenya came up with this complex security mechanism, or I don't know how to call it, like this whole security thing that Kenya came up with, and this was never meant to harm the citizens. And if you go to my Twitter, you'll see I'd written really mofo, and the reason why I'd written that is because I always tell people I come from Luoland, and from Luoland, one of the things that I've noticed is government violence. It's always been there. Ever since I was a kid, I've known about the police showing up in Kisumu and doing whatever they want to do. So I know about of course Rivayala, but apart from Rivayala, I know about Baby Pendo. During the Baby Pendo thing, when that was happening, it was literally the police finding people in their homes and doing whatever they wanted to do. So the police would find you in your home, like they break your door, wanaingia. And this is during Uhuru's time. So when people judge Ruto like that, I'm always like, no, you're full of shit. This has always happened. Yes, is Ruto killing people? Yes, he is. But this is not the first time it's happening. Because when you check the way people talk on Twitter, like, oh, this person is killing our children. This has never happened. And I'm there like, Kianjokoma brothers happened under Uhuru. Baby Pendo, Uhuru. That kid called Yasin Moyo here in Isili. Uhuru, the kid was, this is COVID. Killing people over COVID, according to me, is worse than killing them over protests. Because COVID, people are in their houses. So like this Yasin Moyo kid was 12 years old, was on the balcony. And remember, we'd been given a curfew. So the police are walking around, and one police just sees a kid and just shoots, pop, and hits this kid dies. But then we want to create this world where this Ruto guy is the only guy who's ever killed people. And when you tell people now, this has happened, this is a systemic issue. And I always say that it's an executive problem, like an executive issue where the police have always felt like their job is to protect the executive, never the citizens. So when Uhuru via Matiang'i was unleashing this violence on people, people never looked at it that way. You see, the Kianjokoma brothers will die, and we don't blame Uhuru. But right now, the equivalent of the Kianjokoma brothers die, what do? We blame Ruto. So yes, I'm like, let's judge Ruto by something, but let's be honest enough to say Kenyans have always died under all presidencies. The police have always been unleashed on protesters. This is not the first time. Just because during that time it was ODM protesters does not make them less of protesters. They were still protesters. Yeah. So, because I think people want that, like, since now the Gen Z, if you ask the average Kenyan about protesters, Gen Z protests are always put up like it's a different form of protest.
Form of protest.
Protest is protest. So if you're unleashing violence on protesters, it does not matter, especially if you're going into their houses. You remember, like, was it the Sabasaba one where they still went into houses? And that's why this kid called Nduta was shot. Because the police had gone to neighborhoods and now they were just shooting. And this is some shit that's happened in Kisumu like all those other times.
So that's a funny thing. And let me tie it up. But he's actually nailed what I wanted to say. So I'll give an example of the Garissa massacre. They said they wanted to find one, like a gangster. So they set fire to a village. And
A whole village,
Yes.
just to find one guy.
and then proceeded to lock up all of the guys in a field somewhere, denying them water and denying them food and water.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's estimated 3,000 people were killed, 1980. And if you are not
3,000 people.
Yeah, if you are not Somali, you could go. Then there was Wagala in 84. Wajir. People say between 5 and 10,000 people were killed. The point I'm making,
5 and 10,000 people.
yes, the point I'm making, you start going back into our history. The Somali community have not had the same experience of Kenya as the rest of us. And we normally...
Which is a good
Yeah.
good segue to talk about the
Right,
Somali
but I'm going to tie it up
sure,
because
sure.
there's something you've said and they want to bring it out. Normally people say, how do we verify that they're Kenyan? How do we verify that somebody from Busia is Kenyan? Or somebody from Nyanza is Kenyan? Because some laws are in all three countries. They're around Lake Victoria. It's not that they're just in Kenya.
Yeah.
They're in Tanzania, they're in Uganda.
Yeah.
Why don't we say, if your name is Otieno, we are going to do verification? Because for some reason, there's an Islamophobia tied to the
name.
hatred of the Somali.
Yeah.
So Somalis have always had this other nature in the country. They've always had to go for verification and all these other things. And so you can't just get an ID. So it's like really, really difficult. Which is why I'm saying the state has always, those guys, they deal with APs. They don't deal with regular police. Protests in communities, in villages, people have always protested in villages. You go to places like Kambani, people have been protesting this lack of, anti-venom. Kids are dying. People protest. It's just that generally the state opens fire. Many times it doesn't make it into the press, which is why I said Kenya is a meat grinder. People are always dying. Issue is, do we really care? Or have we come to say that, have we come to the point where we are like, if these deaths do not affect me directly, then I do not care. And if they do, then I care. Because if that's the case, then that's fine. Let's not, we are all immoral people and let's not prosecute the morality of the leader. But if we actually care, then we need to really have an internal look at this country we've created and the injustices we put people through. Because we are a country where, you know, even small things like land grabbing. All communities are guilty of this thing. Everyone in Kenya. But if you listen to it, it's like something the elites do alone. But
everyone does it.
Everyone does it. Like you look at the bypasses. Their homes, people have their homes where the exit and entries on Red Hill Road. The exit and entries into Red Hill Road that do not exist because people built their homes there. If you talk to the people who own those homes, they'll complain about government corruption. If you look at it's across the board. Like there's something very, and I don't know how to perfectly put this. We've had a country that has been repeatedly killing people, brutalizing them, and we've been okay with it. And I don't know. And when you start going through this, like for instance, in during the post-election violence, a large chunk of the people are killed by the cops. Like you go to Kisumu, the cops just opened fire into crowds. And that was it.
Post-election was Kibaki /
Yeah,
Ruto,
that's Kibaki. Yeah, that's why, like, even on the podcast, like on Ikonini, I've told people, I always give the example of there's this photo of Raila and Ruto at City Mortuary, and there are piles of bodies. Most of those bodies were the police. Because tribal violence was mostly outside Nairobi.
It was outside Nairobi.
Mostly.
And that's Boniface Mwangi's pictures. And Nairobi.
It was the police.
Okay, so what I'm gathering is this is just the same page written over different chapters throughout
Yes.
Kenya's history. But do you think where it's come from right now has boiled down to that ultimate frustration in a generation that has access to the internet, has access to what's outside there, has access to what can be better, what's expected? And so that frustration and that need to express themselves is sort of cultivated in all these generations, and our forefathers not saying anything, grandfathers, to our parents, to us saying, no, we actually genuinely need to make a change and we need to do this, and Ruto is this. And sort of he's now fed as the next target, because who else do you blame? Because he's the president that's inherited sort of this sinking ship, and obviously maybe he's trying to work it out on the back end, and Gen Z have no choice but to point the target at him.
Yeah, this one you can look at it that way, but I also say that we also have to look at the hypocrisy that comes with that. Because, like for example, right now we've been threatening Ruto and telling Ruto, if you lose the election, you have to resign or you have to step down. There is no choice. But then the question would be, why are we afraid that Ruto might not leave office even if he loses? Kibaki. Understand? So when you look at all these things, you're like, how is he the worst president? Like, yes, is he bad? And has he did he shoot people during when we had, like, everyone had a phone and everyone could record? Because, like, you see, when you talk about 2007, we're talking about Boniface Mwangi. But right now we have footage of just random Kenyans who are able to capture the police shooting people.
Yeah.
So I'd say that even as the Gen Z or the new generation does this, we have to know it's a systemic issue. It's not a personality. That's why when I hear people say, let's get rid of Ruto and bring Matiang'i, I'm like, which Matiang'i? The same Matiang'i who under Uhuru was there justifying murder. Like, you remember the way he went to Nakuru and he was like, we are going to stop the crime in Nakuru and we don't care if anyone screams about human rights. Then what happened? A few days later, 4 kids were found in the house, chilling in the house. Then they were told, you're criminals. Wakapelekwa nje, wakauliwa. And when the kids were being killed, there's one story that I don't know if it's been fictionalized or it's been but there's a story of one of the 4 young men, because there was a 16-year-old who was killed, and then there was another one, I think he was 21 years old. He was he'd just buried his mother, so he told the police that instead of you killing me here, just go and kill me next to my mother's grave. And they did that. They went and killed him, and they were found in the house. This happened under Kenyatta, and who was the interior CS? It was Matiang'i, and Matiang'i was very hands-on. He was very so now if you tell me to get rid of Ruto and bring Matiang'i, and I'm like, no, you're there telling me I don't want change, and I'm there telling you, just because you ignored what used to happen when Matiang'i was the CS, and right now you're screaming about Murkomen, does not make you right. You have to know that whatever Murkomen is doing, Matiang'i was worse. Like, people died under Uhuru. A lot of people died. But we want to put this perfect image that during Uhuru's time, everything was rosy. This other guy came and changed Kenya. No. Yes, is there some truth to it? There are things that changed, like freedom of expression to a certain level, yes.
Yeah.
But after we made enough noise, nowadays when I do Ikoneni, I'm not worried about someone coming to grab me. So I'd look at it that way. Like, yes, Ruto is not the worst. He's just part of the system. Like, if you ask me who's the worst between all of them, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know they've always killed, and that's why I always look at the police as an institution. And even when Murkomen was appointed as CS, I did one of my reaction videos, and I remember telling people, this guy has been appointed because of the elections. The elections are coming. Then we did a show when people were protesting about Lagat. We did a show with Brian Obuya, the NTV guy, and he said that Lagat will step down, and I told him, no, the 2027 elections are too important for Lagat to step down. And the only way Ruto is going to step down is if the gap is so big that there's no way to play around with the numbers. Otherwise, Ruto will be back, and that's why he needs Lagat and he needs Murkomen. And how do we know that? Because we've seen the same from the previous presidents, where you appoint the interior CS as a guy who's ready to unleash maximum violence on citizens and not care about the cries. 2017 was so bad that at some point, I don't know if you remember, but Matiang'i came out and told people, if you post videos of dead people, we are going to arrest you. That's how bad 2017 was. But people act like 2017, like all this time Uhuru was there, everything was mwah, and it was not
Like
that
it
way.
was a lovely, lovely
Yeah, it
period.
was
But
not
this was
lovely.
so maybe transitioning now from Kibaki into Uhuru's period. What stood out to you two most? Like what's a memory? And also my another question that I have is we were talking about the Somali population. Or maybe we can cover that when we go into Ruto and sort of how that particular population has received benefits compared to what they were dealing with in the back end. But maybe on the front, what's something you remember fondly from that period?
Fondly.
From there?
Kenyatta's period.
I don't know.
Uhuru Kenyatta, okay.
The thing about our various presidents, I think something I said in Mike Masharia has a podcast, Founders Battlefield. I was interviewed, and something I said is like our politicians know us better than we admit.
Yeah.
And the cynical view that I'm forming about the country, it's the politicians know we don't fully care for each other. So none of our presidents has been like a poor orator. You listen to videos of Moi speaking in the 80s.
Very
He's very articulate. You listen to videos of Kenyatta speaking. He was fairly articulate. And now the thing about Uhuru was he was affable. He was affable. He was, he's the guy who went for a concert, a reggae concert. He's the guy who was doing all those things.
UB40.
Yeah. And so from like he really, him and his, like he made the presidency seem kind of accessible. He had like this cool factor.
Yeah.
Kibaki was very professorial and sort of remained in his cocoon. Was a very humorous person. I've never forgotten the fact that he was forced to declare that he's got a
good wife.
which was entertaining. But like and even if you listen to Kibaki in the 70s and the 60s, he was remarkably articulate. He was viewed as sort of like the sane voice in Kenya's government at the time.
Yeah.
Him and a couple of other people. Because Kibaki was remarkably articulate, very well educated, had a very good sense of like where the economy needed to go. And this is something people forget. Our leaders are not, we see them sort of misbehave in public. But a guy like Saitoti was an airlift guy. Saitoti was a beneficiary of Tomboya's airlifts.
Yes. I didn't know that.
Yes. And then the guy proceeded to be one of the leading mathematicians in Africa. He's the one who organized the study of math in Africa partially. This guy, and he was writing thesis on how we can reform the economy in this part of the world.
Wow.
That's actually how he got Moi's attention. The idea of Kenyan politicians as completely stupid is very flawed.
That's why he was the Minister for Finance at some
Yes.
point. No. Okay. I remember.
This guy was incredibly published.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that, Kibaki went to Makerere and I don't remember what else he studied. A guy like Mishuki studied governance at Oxford. We have quite the thing that what we see in our politicians at the end is what they kind of need to become to win elective office. And they've understood this country. And I'm not sure which came first, the chicken or the egg. I'm not sure if it was the politics of the 70s and 80s that got us into this state we're in, or if it was the population that got us here. My suspicion, it was the politics of the time. Because the thing to remember is we are not here because we want to be here, so to speak. So the thing to remember is that democratization of Africa hit quite a number of roadblocks.
Yes.
So our states formed unique perspectives, unique characters that were divorced from what the citizens wanted. And this is primarily beyond us. This is a byproduct of the Cold War. And so
Cold War.
Yeah.
Why the Cold War specifically?
So because at the Cold War, the USSR and the US,
States, yeah.
well, the West and the East were fighting for supremacy. And some of the darkest wars, again, like that thing took the character of this country. People say that the Cold War period, there was peace. But Niall Ferguson actually is a bit of a interesting character, but he wrote a book called The Third World War. And his theory was there was peace in those areas because all the wars were being fought here in other places. So I'll give you a good example. People don't understand why Kim Jong-un, the Kim family, remained in power for so long. There's the nukes and everything. But there's just the chaos of the Korean War, which is an active war. Like there's never been a ceasefire. There's a ceasefire, there's no end to the war declaration. And what happened is something like 20% of North Korea's population was wiped out. More bombs were dropped in that place than were dropped in Europe through world. It's some insane number. I don't have the exact details.
This is the Korean War?
Yeah.
The one north and south?
Yeah.
The one that the Americans got involved? Huh?
Yes. Now, the Americans got involved because effectively the Kim family had pushed downwards. And then now they were like, oh, we are losing the Korean Peninsula. Korean Peninsula cannot become allied to the USSR. So we are going to give support to, and we are going to, whatever it takes. And so the war found a natural end through that line. There's a line, I forget its name. Something parallel or something. That's where the war ended. And that's where all the bombs and all the barricades are to date. But the population, like the death toll was insane. Something similar happened with Bangladesh because it was like very dark. The British, when they're dividing up countries, they're like, you guys look the same. You guys pray facing east. So the Bangladesh community is Muslim. Pakistan is Muslim.
Yeah.
So Bangladesh became East Pakistan, and Pakistan proper became West Pakistan. Pakistan had a dictator. And the US was supporting Pakistan. But then there was a typhoon sometime in the 70s, and like 500,000 people died in Bangladesh, and the president made a comment like, there was 200,000 people. However, it was an insane number of people. The hundreds of thousands is like, that's X hundred of thousand problem solved. So now the guys in East Pakistan decide we're voting out this guy. They vote him out, then it becomes like this contested election. Guy refuses to leave power. The US comes to support him. The West gets the Russia and the USSR and China get involved, supporting Bangladesh, and like this thing nearly leads to like another world war. And I think somebody who had like diplomatic insight got both sides to calm down, and Bangladesh was hived off as its own country. If you look at most of these countries across the globe, Cuba is in the states it's in because it's allied with the USSR. Like in the 50s, some crazy dictator was put up there. So this guy rises to power. The West comes in. Like they're all this very, and I'm not saying the USSR was right and the West was wrong. No, this is just what was going on. And so you come to East Africa. Mengistu, who's still alive, was allied to the USSR and that place was like they were dying of famine. But they got military support from the USSR. You go across the continent, different people had different. Tanzania was USSR. They also had like hunger issues. South Africa was supported by the West until... So when the Cold War ended, it's not that Africa suddenly became democratic. It's that the military funding and support from both the USSR and the West stopped. So your South Africa, you're suddenly like, okay, let's reform. Your Tanzania, your Kenya, your Moi, you're suddenly like, okay, crap. I'm not just going to get this military support from nowhere. And so these leaders started... It is across the board, whether it is in Ghana, whether it is in Nigeria.
It's a unique perspective.
That democratization period started after 1990.
Mwaf, you need to get this guy on Ikonini.
We're going to do that. Yeah.
So okay. you can't like isolate the two. And so in Kenya's case, for good or bad, we allied with the West. Jaramogi, who was allied with the East, was sidelined. This is the path we took. We never were a democracy. And so the state formed its character and the citizens learned to respond to the state in a certain way. And even when elections were introduced, the politicians still understood how the citizens behaved after this experience. Because remember, if you're outside of Central or the Rift, you are effectively abandoned by the state until around 2013 when devolution kicked in. A good example of this is, how is it that for 60 years, we still need a ferry to go to the South Coast?
By the way.
Like, I'm not talking about, these are places why you have to go into Mombasa. And that I don't know, it's how many 100 meters, can only be crossed by ferry.
Ferry, yeah.
And then you also needed to go through Mombasa to go to the north coast. And those roads were narrow death traps. How? Then you go to other parts of the country, it's poverty. But the parts where the president has been, you have development. And people wonder why our politics is high stakes. The communities that have had leadership, no. Their lives are transformed if their guy is in power. And other communities are just left abandoned. So they're basically selling their votes and trying to angle for some piece of this pie.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get like a minister for finance, and that guy can come and build your road or build your hospital, etc. But that's the character the state has taken ever since that period. And I don't know who, I'm just describing the problem.
Okay. Okay.
And I think that's what Ruto is trying to fight right now. He's trying to position himself as the guy who does not care if whatever. Because now I think the fact that he's in quotes lost the mountain, it feels like if he can throw development here, there, then he can be the first guy who
does that.
Now moves away from that so-called, is it shareholder government, where if you didn't vote for me, fuck you.
Which is why, by the way.
So it's like, particularly, I'm going with my boys, quote unquote, and helping them out.
So he's at least that's what I saw. Like even when he went to Ukambani, was it last week or something? And he said a small part that was controversial, but at the end of the day, he launched a development project there. But because, as I said, we have to hate the guy.
What did he say that was controversial?
I think he talked about, he was talking about Kalonzo and Kalonzo not being on the side of development. But then he said, I'm here to launch this project. Because this country is for everyone, blah, blah, blah. This country is not for... So he did that. Maybe he should not have said that part of Kalonzo. So people just cut the Kalonzo part and they went at him and forgot what he was saying.
They clipped it.
Yeah. But more importantly, I actually think that, contrary to what many people think, I believe this country needs more, not less, devolution.
More?
Yeah. I think many people look at this country and say, oh, there's this. I urge people to look at the Kroll report from 2003.
The?
Kroll report.
Kroll report.
Yeah. An individual who was estimated to have 20% of our national budget back then. Full budget. Whatever the theft happens at the lower level, it is not as bad as the theft that happens at a national level, and people can see it. If we push most revenue collection and allocation to the place where it's needed the most, you actually have a more responsive government. And here is why I say that. We look at the state as an intelligent being somewhere else. But let me give you an example, a very simple example. How do I know what you want for dinner?
You tell
We've
me.
met today.
Yeah.
How the hell are you supposed to know how am I supposed to know what you want for dinner?
Si kama ni mwini ni biryani.
But you get my point. How am I supposed to know what you want for dinner?
How?
Unless you ask me, Amma.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now, imagine if it was my job to figure out what everyone in Nairobi had for dinner. There's something known as the principle of subsidiarity. Why is this road out here? And whether it has a walkway or not, the business of a guy in Kura somewhere. Why is access to a hospital or distribution of antivenom in Kitui determined by a health minister in Nairobi? Let guys figure out what they want at that level. And you need to push it as far as possible. Because guys in a community have very, very different needs. Even when they live, I'll give you a very simple example of this. You look at Amboseli in Lavington, Amboseli Road. There are guys in Amboseli Road who are unhappy with the unwashed masses walking past them, so they've privatized the road. Those guys have very different needs from the other side of that fence, which is Kawangware. If you ask the guys in Amboseli what their priority is, they'll tell you, we want a wider road, we want better street lights, etc. The guys in Kawangware might tell you, we want better public service transport. Those are two very opposed things. But what have we done? We've gone back. We claim to be capitalists, but we focus on central planning. Our state right now is central planning. And what we need to do is move as much of the responsibility as possible to the... Because if you look at a community like... I used to live somewhere on Gong Road, and it was like a crescent road. To date, that road has not been tarmacked. It's been God knows how many years. But if you had the guys there tell you what they want. Ngong Road was widened, but if you ask those guys, that road would have rather been tarmacked than
Widened.
also like on Ngong Road, there's where Talanta Stadium is coming up. That community loved that piece of land. They used to run around there. They used to do this. Somebody above came and said, no, this needs to be a stadium. I didn't know it's a stadium, but none of the guys there wanted a stadium.
Which is Talanta.
Yeah, Talanta Stadium. Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't have Talanta or anything.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that land was very valuable to that community. But the decision, now
Was
that
made by
community has
someone
missed
else.
a place where they ride their bikes, play touch rugby. They used to play touch rugby, play soccer, all of this. It was a very vibrant ground. But somebody else made the call that we need a stadium for whatever, and it might be good.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is, if you go down and you trust your citizens to do what is in the interest, because you're not collecting this tax money for develop. The tax money being collected is not to project Kenya. The tax money, you're literally taking money from my pocket and saying that this communal needs we need to have. But you don't trust the very community you're taxing to make decisions on what they want. If you trust the community, the power should be there. Because they're the ones earning the money. They should decide how they spend it.
Fair enough.
Okay, makes sense. Because even like when you've talked about that, it's reminded me, one of the things that I see happening with the Kalenjin community and the Kikuyu community is the rearing of these. In Kenya, we call them ng'ombe za grade. What are they called? Is it exotic cows?
No, it's great cows, but it's exotic cows. It is.
Yes. And Luoland, you find very few people do that. And the main reason behind that is like cattle rustling. Like, for example, Sisi, like in Nyakach, we are separated. There's a road separating Luo land and Kalenjin land. And during Moi's time, what used to happen is, because, Kalenjins are in power, the police, blah, blah, blah. So they just come and grab cows. And the process, what ended up happening is, this is one of the regions where you'll find even the most educated person still has those two indigenous cows. Those ones that itakutolea maziwa once a year if you're lucky. Otherwise it never. Hakunaga maziwa inatoa. So unless we change it because of a funeral, and you look at that and you're like, what if I was a visionary Luo leader, the same thing that he said, what I'd have is police stations at very strategic places that make sure that, yes, this thing used to be a problem, but now it has to end so that people can move from this level to this other level. So with that area inakuwaga like the best unaweza fanya ni chicken, and if it's not chicken, it's goats ama sheep. But ukijidanganya tu na ng'ombe ya grade, even till now, there's always the fear of mtu
Getting it
anakuja
stolen.
kuiba.
Yeah.
You see? And you look at the level of poverty there, and you're like, because with such cows, how are you supposed to move yourself from this level to this level? And this cow, apart from wewe kuitafutia chakula, it's like you have a pet. Because if inakupatia maziwa once a year,
It's more of an expense.
and then there's another farmer in Central Province, somewhere in Rift Valley, ule anapata maziwa every day, how are you supposed to compete?
Won't compete with that.
Understand? You don't.
No, I get
So
that.
yeah, I understand your point here. You need to get what
People-
the people want here.
So like a couple of things. Like at the end of the day, our taxes are, it's forcefully taken, so it needs to be spent by us. And if the central government can't figure it out, it's given back. But to your point, I observed this a while ago. Many communities in Kenya just need very basic additional support. So the form of police you get is not the form of police you need. I remember there was a very funny story had years ago in Dondori. This is a case of government working, but it was one of the funniest stories, very darkest stories I ever had. So I come from Dondori.
Yes.
If anybody who's Kikuyu will just laugh, because we are known to be the most backward. We use gumboots to drink porridge and what have you. There are myriad of jokes about people from Dondori and how backward they are. But now, where my grandfather has his home, they were very innovative thieves. And when border borders became a thing, these thieves will stand on both ends of the road with a rope
And stretch it.
and just stand as the bike is coming. Obviously, physics. Everyone is tossed out, and now they can take their sweet time.
Because you're injured up or
Injured up, and you take.
and people will die.
The
Yes.
Kanepi post came up somewhere there, and shortly the problem was gone because it was in a particular corridor. And they dealt with it. And in Dondori as well, one of my nephews chose not to go to school because he was fighting with his he disliked the school.
Yeah.
And the DEO actually came and asked my aunt, why isn't this kid in school? It became like a thing. So in small instances, and so that there they actually took care of the problems that guys were facing in that very small community. Many times you don't need expensive interventions, which is why devolution matters.
Okay.
You need the
Okay.
right intervention.
So I'm seeing it as though thinking of a large global entity that acquires a Kenyan entity.
Yeah.
You can't make decisions on a global level for local
yeah.
solutions.
Yes.
So if you were to look at Kenya as a business, each place needs its own CEO and team making decisions specific for those individuals, right?
But I think the reason why a few people think that we need less devolution is because of the level of thievery. Like
that's
this
another
is
good point.
completely-
Very good point.
That's a point I've been making.
Yes.
If you look at the level of thievery at the national government, which is why I say we need to have equivalency. Go read the Kroll report. Which constituency has stolen enough to have 20% of our national budget somewhere?
Which one?
Which constituency? None.
None.
Oh, okay. Ningeshindwa.
You
That's
look
what I
at
was
the
asking.
look at the level of corruption in the 90s. The level of theft. Which governor can pull off Goldenberg?
That's true.
You look at the land theft
Yeah.
in the 60s. Which governor can pull that off? The thing is, to date, even the project you're complaining about with the current government, you're not hearing about a mega project with a governor. All of them are in the national government. And that's why, you see, the national government has this amorphous kitty of cash where you can't even. But if you knew that your ward has X million shillings to your ward, you're going to police that. That's very easy to police. You know your MCA is here. That's very easy to police. How are you going to police a contract for what being given to who? Like a road being built from here. You get what I mean?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
It's actually, if you want to, which is why I'm saying, for Kenya Power is the best example. Kenya Power didn't have to come into our houses. You can police your own power consumption in the house. You'll be like, why have you left a light on? Why are you using this electric cooker? Why are you using that? Kenya Power can't come to my house to police them. They just meter and charge.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. And so that's how you think about it. You want the funds to be spent at the place with the most visibility. If somebody tells me today, data centers consume a lot of power, how the hell am I supposed to conceptualize what Ikolo uses?
Yes.
But if you tell me that my power bill in my house is 20,000 shillings,
Then it matches.
then that thing
that rings a bell.
matches.
Yeah.
And even people around me can even help me with that thing.
I think, Nene, so I understand what you mean, and local problems, local solutions. There's this clip that was going around. I don't know if you guys saw it, but on Friday, Amazon Kingi posted happy birthday to me, blah, blah, blah. It was his birthday. And people started sharing this clip of Gaido. Where Gaido is like, Amazon Kingi, umekula pesa yote na malaya. Malaya umemaliza. There's nothing you've done for
Gaitho's that
Kilifi.
short guy, right?
Yes,
he's
Gaitho
the
is,
guy that hated on us, Kim. The Gaitho, Francis Gaitho.
Yeah,
Yeah. Jamal
Yes.
Andika Phares is the one who wrote the tweet about us. Yeah.
Yes. So when you look at that, like the problem I have with this thing is you saw like this week there was the auction, Obado. So Kenya we still have the Muheshimiwa syndrome where the Muheshimiwa is supposed to be rich, is supposed to be this, supposed to be this. So the normal average citizen, I think kama mimi na wewe, wale tunaona, like if this money is coming to the county, if this money is coming to our MCA, tuna need kufanya 1, 2, 3 things.
I actually completely disagree with that. Because look at the level of... Has Nairobi ever elected the same governor twice?
No.
Hatujai. But that's Nairobi.
No. Just hold up.
Yeah.
Nairobi has not elected the same governor twice.
Yeah.
Many communities here do not elect the same governor twice. When you look at the governor space, those people are churned out. They're arrested. They are socially vilified. None of this happens with our president. Which president of ours has been
Yeah,
arrested?
has ever been arrested, yes.
Like,
Because
so
right
you
now
have,
we
you have one cohort for whom there are consequences, even after they leave offices.
And the rest aren't touchable.
And then you've got another one where even
Zero
after they leave, nothing
consequences.
happens. Who do you want to trust the most?
The ones who
Okay.
The ones who can
be
actually be crucified. And on top of that,
that's a good
if
point.
a president makes a mistake, it affects 60 million people, 50 something million people.
Yes.
A governor makes a mistake, these counties are divided by population.
2 million.
It's 2 or so
maximum.
million people, apart from Nairobi, but it's 2 or so million people. And so you limit, the whole idea should not be, I think one of the mistakes we make is looking for Lee Kuan Yew. Instead of accepting that
You have Obadi.
this is who we have, this is the bill of people, this is our stock of human capital. They're corrupt, they're thugs. Let's limit what they can do.
Yeah.
Because remember, again, if you took our entire budget and gave it to the governors and limited what was left, because you do need national cohesive projects like roads, airports and stuff like that, some of them will steal it. But again, you will not be able to go and take a Eurobond. You will not be able to go and build massive, like some of these other projects will have a lot more. Because remember, again, if governors have more, if the government wants to borrow to do something like a massive bridge or something, there is pushback from the governors because you're taking from their pocket. But there's that loophole in our Public Finance Act that allows that where the governors get their share after debt service. If you shift it the other way to before debt service, when the central government borrows for a project, they have killed their own headroom. And so and then now for them to get money, they're fighting with the senators and governors over. And then these governors now are more accountable to the community. Because right now, the problem with central government power is you can actually thumb the scale for your community. So for instance, the road to Nyeri is 4 lanes. Then now they want to charge people to go to Nakuru. So then you have these inequities. I'm not saying that road shouldn't have been built. It should have. But you also have the fact that the first road to northern Kenya came in the 2010s. From Isiolo to Mandera, all the way up to, is it Mandera, wherever, had no road. But meanwhile, you've got parts of Nairobi that have fantastic infrastructure. And it's because your allocation, and a good example of this misallocation, remember, I'm not saying that these roads should not be built. But I'm giving an example of why the prioritization needs to be local. If you ask guys who live in Rongai, which road needs to be built? It's the road between Rongai, over there, what do you call that place? The place where African Nazarene University is. There's a term for that area. And you're from there to Bomas of Kenya. The road that's getting widened is the one from Bomas to Karen.
Yes, by the way, it's
So-
like a bottleneck then.
Yeah.
Right?
No, But you see, the thing is, the community that's suffering the most, yes, that bottleneck is bad, but people going to Rongai spend hours on the road every day.
Yes.
Like, their quality of life is so bad. So if you could give money to, if all these people had a say, the guys in Rongai would prefer that road widened. But the politicians live in Karen. So which one will get prioritized? So what
But
you need to be doing is removing the power and sending the budget for roads to that constituency so that they can get, or at least push Kura to prioritize that road. Because you end up in this situation where, if you look at Nairobi to Mombasa, apart from the road itself, you have like a ton of infrastructure. There are 2 railways, there are airports on both ends. There's like, so then you're going to build a wider road. I'm not saying the road should be built. But while this is happening, people are sleeping on the road on the Nairobi Nakuru highway, and it's become impossible to go up the Maimahiu road. And these are corridors that are literal corridors of commerce. So you need to be able to map the needs of the people there with the budgets that you're getting, because we don't have the luxury. We're a poor country at the end of the day. We don't have the luxury of. There's an indication. Something I said, like my lineage. My grandfather was born in the 1890s. His father died in 1910. My grandfather was born at some point in the 1890s. I don't know exactly when. He was around 15 when his dad died, around 1910. So we gather around 1895 or somewhere there.
Yes.
he was born into colonial Kenya. His life experience from 0 to when he turned 64, actually 70, he was a colonized person. Like that's the life he experienced. When he was nearly 70 is when he could finally... I posted on Instagram his passbook. My grandfather was rolling around with a passbook and had to get justification for where he was going in his 50s. People don't have a second life when the development is here later. You get what I'm trying to say? You live here and now.
We need it
So
now.
you taking all my taxes for this imagined future is cruel. I am not saying again that we should not have future-oriented projects.
But the problems that we have...
But you cannot say that we will let X thousand babies die because we will not vaccinate them so that we have a road for them to be driven on, which they're dead. You have one life, and the state, in as much as it needs to focus on the future, has a responsibility to us who are paying taxes
It's a very
now.
good point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so those taxes need to be aligned with what we need. And if not, just leave us to figure out our lives.
Sasa gents, as we move towards the end and wind things down on Ruto's presidency, there are a couple of items. There's Phares, I love the way you sort of go. We just need to give you a topic and an agenda, yeah? So we there are a few questions on Ruto I want to ask you as we wind down, but there was also the Somali problem which you brought up. Well, not really Somali problem, but the Somali issue, where if you compare that particular community and what they experienced throughout the previous presidency compared to the current presidency, they're actually one of the few communities that are benefiting right now. Could you expand on that a bit?
Effectively, before there was this verification, and the verification was not based on the fact that there were border communities.
Yeah.
It was some form of Islamophobia. So, even if you're a Somali you're of Somali descent, you've grown up in Kenya, you're born in Kenya, your parents were born in Kenya, your grandparents were born in Kenya, you're sidelined. And part of this has to do with a gripe based on what the Northern Frontier District, as it was known at the time, wanted at the point of independence. Ideally, all the Somali community wanted to be unified because there's some Somalis in Ethiopia, some and the states, Kenya, and some in Somalia proper. The states didn't take it properly, so there's always been a fairly hostile interaction between the two communities. Well, the state and the Somali community. And so effectively, you look at the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was all-out war. Like, it was a shifter war, and then now you have the government became hostile.
Yeah.
And so they were effectively treated as other for a very long time. And so the average experience of Kenyan Somali is very different from Kenyan Kikuyu, what have you.
Yes.
And so that has finally been fixed. And there's still some opprobrium about it, and people are unhappy with it. But I think, just out of sheer principle, if we are going to say they're not Somali, let the Northern Frontier District go. But if they're going to be in Kenya and their land was taken, they need to be Kenyan citizens.
So
and just out of kindness and fairness and natural justice, they've lived here. We have lived with them, and they are part of us. So they need to be here. There's no thing the state has been doing is very unfair. And we need to have roads going into that part of the country. And when you think about, when they talk about state inaction and lack of development and infrastructure, something about the Garissa massacre, when there was Al-Shabaab in Garissa, that people didn't fully understand is why was a rapid response in Nairobi? Why don't we have police in all these areas so that when they're attacked, you actually have people who can respond to them there? Why does it require... Yes, there was this bungling with the response. I don't know, the helicopter was where, God knows what else. Fine. Fundamental question. The cops who are there are APs and they can't help. And in many cases in Kenya, even when there have been terror attacks, the cops who've been there, even in, there have been APs, and they're just not equipped for that. Those are guys who are trained to beat up the natives. And then now we've never reformed the police force to be responsive, which is why I keep saying these things need to be responsive to what the citizens need. The police force, the police needs in Garissa
very different from
from Parklands or from Lavington or from Mombasa.
Correct.
You're very different. And that's why more power and more responsibility needs to go there.
Yeah.
So, like, when you talked about this Somali thing, because I think you're the guy who are found to be the most. So, someone wrote me a message. This was because of Ikonene. And I'm one of the people who believed in vetting. Najua. I think because, the way we've grown up knowing, hey, these people will bring Al Shabaab to us. So, an Ikonene fan wrote to me. It was like, yo, Mwaf, I'm a very big supporter of your podcast. Me ni Somali Kenyan, and I think you misunderstood the vetting issues. And if you continue spreading it, it may lead to harming of the Somali community. Then he said, what the president removed is not vetting. He removed unfair vetting. Then he continued and saying, one particular famous example of unfair vetting is Mariam Bishar of Fixing the Nation. If you look into Mariam Bishar, is a lady who culturally is very far from Somali community because she drinks, eats pork, and is an atheist. She was born in this country, did her studies in this country in a Christian majority school. When it was time for her to get an ID, all her classmates got registered in their classes and got their IDs after 1 week except for her. How fair is that, and how discriminatory is it for her to get her ID after 3 months of gruesome vetting, where maybe she had to pay some bribes in order to get something which she had a right to? Then continued, this is a situation where by even her teachers could not make a case for her citizenship because of an archaic and very discriminatory vetting. It alienates a segment of the country's population. Ask any Kenyan Somali if they are willing to admit that they have to get some agent in order to get something they have a right to, in order not to go through a very gruesome process. If you go to border communities, the elders and the chief already know that their people, that's how vetting is done. And trust me, bro, those elders and chiefs will never allow an outsider to easily come and acquire an ID and voting card because it will mess up their power sharing plans. Then akaendelea. So I hope I was able to clarify, because they have been looking at it is when we had there is no vetting, we looked at it through political lenses, and the political lenses were this guy wants to register foreigners. And after he registers foreigners, he can push his numbers up. So that's how he looked at it. But
which,
through
by the
his
way,
message, I
it's
was
true.
like,
It is happening, though.
But here's the thing. Just think about this thing. When you create an unfair process, and how do I put this in a polite manner? There is a natural process for getting an ID. When you go try getting an ID or passport or KRA pin, you see your parents' details there, and they can track back to the next layer. Yes.
Yeah.
If you push me out of that system, that's when people learn the alternative way of doing this, and the corrupt will use that same system. But for none of us do we think about bribing for an ID, because our details and the verification is baked into the system. But when you push someone out of that system, you create a loophole that allows third parties to come in, if that makes sense. But generally, for most people, like, it's just you go to your chief, people know you. If you get a birth certificate at birth, that birth certificate is tagged to your mom, tagged to your dad, and their documents are tagged to their parents. So, like in my case, I literally have a record. My family has a record of this with the state going back God knows how many years. So there's no vetting necessary. And if you have their records going back X number of years, why bother?
Chicken and egg discussion as well, right? So which one came first, which one came after? But we see, I mean, you understand both points, but obviously the vetting.
But the point I'm making is, I know that there is nefarious actors, etc. But that's why I said, like, look, the border, I can understand that. And then you use the community at the borders, which is what happens in Busia. Because in Busia, you also just can't go and... Because now you have a border, but the community helps you. Have the same infrastructure all over the place. And if it's failing, fix that infrastructure. But right now, if you lose your names, the vetting stops. And that's not a fair way of handling it. Fair way of handling it is, what problem are we trying to solve? Why is this thing popping up? And again, if we actually give many of these places budget for security, border enforcement, etc., a lot of these problems go away. And this goes back to, there's an analogy I've been using. And this is kind of what I'm trying to talk about. Something known as the political economy. You survive in it. On a daily basis. So there's a David Foster Wallace poem. He was giving a commencement address, actually, and it was, one fish is rolling around, goes to another fish, or how's the water, asks how's the water. Another fish goes, what is water? And sort of, because the water is invisible to the fish. And so this ties into, there's an article I'm actually writing about this, and this is how I start the article. It'll be published in the next few weeks. I've just not edited it correctly.
Yeah.
In the 70s, there was this guy called Pablo Escobar. Had a lot of money, logistics prowess.
Yeah, he used to sell candy, yeah.
Yeah. He used to sell some flour, ajab.
Yeah.
And so the guy effectively, anyway, I'm giggling because there was a very funny photo of Unga, but it's a separate matter. So this guy imports hippos, and in 1993-94 he's killed off.
Yeah.
The state decides you're not killing these things.
Let's just leave them there.
Over there in the Rio Grande, and forget the name of the river, Medellin or something.
Medellin,
Yeah. And so the state is like, Yani, this is too much work. They take all the other animals, take them to zoos, and then they leave the hippos. Now, in Africa, like in many of the rivers where you have hippos, the drought etc. controls their population. But here they have no natural predators. The river has a ton of water. And so they start populating. And so now, I think they're 170.
Because of this guy.
It's It's 4 hippos, 3 female, 1 male. They're now 170. Populated, like, we're projected to like multiply by a factor of 10 in the next 10 years. Like they're growing. And so people were worried about like the fact that these hippos will come in and will attack other human beings.
Yes.
That's kind of like one problem. But they still do not have the population problem. Because normally, like, you have this human wildlife conflict, but right now there's still a few hippos, and they had a bigger problem, which is hippos shit a lot. And they change the pH of the water in the pools next to the water, and they kill the fish and change the pH of the environment.
Really?
Yes. And that's, to complete the analogy, that's the water. You live in this country. When police harm you, when you can't prosecute a crime, it affects whether or not you can do business,
The pH
how much investment we can get, how we survive on a daily basis is determined by the state. If the tax policy is erratic, businesses pull out, and you just don't notice because we do not get investment, we do not get jobs, the economy contracts. You create a favorable environment for us to thrive, population goes up, but we don't notice that these external things, sort of like the shit that's thrown into this thing, completely changes our ability to function in this economy and to thrive in this economy. And just as a segue, the process of castrating hippos is incredibly difficult because they do not have distended testes. So it costs nearly $100,000 per hippo. Yeah, because that thing, it's heavy, it's pure muscle, so you have to hit it, and then now you have to go and start searching for
the testicles.
Yeah, to cast. Those hippos are like a very fascinating topic that I've spent an ungodly amount of time researching, and like the effects in the. But the point at the end of the day, if you release shit into this environment, you kill everything.
Yes.
And if you allowed Kenyans to just function as they need to, the economy will grow and you won't really notice. But the government affects everything we do on a daily basis, and they can either act as a lubricant or as a brake.
Okay. That's actually
What you are going to say as a lubricant or as a condom?
Sasa, as we end, I have 2 questions for you, gents, right? Who's the future president of Kenya as of today?
Who's the future? What do you mean by that?
Next elections coming up. Who's sitting? Who's standing? Is it the same guy?
Funny enough, I know like in Malawi, there was one term. I don't know why in Kenya, I still believe that this guy can still win. I don't know. I think like unless, but I listened to Gachagua on Friday, and what Gachagua said was he's going to support one guy who can prove that he has numbers. If that happens, then Ruto might end up being one term. And that's also dependent on
numbers, Mwaf?
Let me finish this point. That's also dependent on if from Monday 29th, if I see polling stations like people registering as voters, because making all the noise online means nothing if you don't go to register as voters, because Ruto still has his big chunk. He still has a chunk of people who feel like everything is okay and nothing, because we always look at online where everyone hates him, but that's not the reality. He still has a big chunk. So if people don't register to vote and the Gen Zs don't come out and fill these polling stations, if they act like during our times where When it was time to register, you'd go on the first day and it's empty.
Empty.
Second day it's empty. Then on the last day we all flock.
Flock,
You
yeah.
know what used to happen? If from next week Monday, I'll look at Monday to Friday and I'll see if he's coming back. If it stays the same, where it's the same attitude of let's wait for last minute,
Yeah.
I see him coming back. Who has numbers? I don't know. I think so far who has numbers, it's Gachagua, because Gachagua has somehow, you know, they always look at politics as this emotional attachment. You look at America, where I feel like they elected a clown. Like for me, Trump, you see, I'm the best. If you ask about the economy, nobody knows about the economy more than me. Nobody knows about rockets more than me. You see, like for a president to be that petty, where he has to know everything, comes from the same thing, emotional connection. So right now, the mountain has an emotional connection to Gachagua, and it's just politics. And with that, he has this very huge constituency that's behind him. So he may sway the vote, but the other guy has to bring in something. So if the other guy does not bring in anything, then yeah, that's why I was like, I liked the fact that Gachagua said he wants to see these guys on the streets so that he can vet them for himself and see if they have any numbers.
So do you think
So-
Gachagua, if he's in that position, do you think he's a viable candidate for us?
Nah, no, he's not. The worst thing about Gachagua is, and Phares might have a different view on that, is for us, like as a non-Kikuyu, he represents the Kikuyu community. He's never had a national face. He's always the mountain this, the mountain that, the mountain this, the mountain that. And it's very hard for him to walk away from that style of, you understand?
Yeah.
So he has a big chunk behind him, but it's a chunk to add to someone else
Yeah.
who has a national appeal.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you're faced with Gachagua and Ruto,
Gachagua versus Ruto, I give Ruto. Sorry. I know a lot of people will hate me for that, but better the devil I know. And this devil I know has done his abductions and I think he's gotten his enough taste of abductions. So if I was given those two, I'd give Gachagua.
Okay.
Out of the old school
give Ruto.
politicians,
You'd give-
I'd give Ruto. Out of the old school politicians, if I was given a choice, personally, it's a guy that no one likes, but I think to me he'd be less divisive, and that's Kalonzo. Out of the old school
Musyoka?
politicians. Yes, out of the old school ones.
do you think he has a chance?
Yeah, if Gachagua backs him, he has a chance. The reason why I would not give Matiang'i is I'll always judge Matiang'i through his interior CS time and the way he used to disobey court orders. So he was this guy who was always above the law as a CS. So I try and imagine him as a president, and to me, I see more horror than Ruto. But that's just my 2 cents on that. Yeah.
Okay. Faris.
Najua nimekushtua, but hey, you know.
No, I actually understand your perspective.
Yeah.
I struggle with this country because I don't think I fully understand it. And I don't think I'll ever fully understand the decisions that individual citizens make.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like one of the things that I began to realize, like there was this Mamdani rabbit hole that had ended up on a rabbit hole. You know, I think Devin D or somebody wrote about Mamdani some years back.
Yeah.
Or one of these local writers, and then like I looked for his work. I came to realize that I do not understand. Like the Somali community, for instance, has always voted with the government of the day. It took me a while to understand that it's because of how oppressed they are, that if they align themselves with the government, the oppression goes down, or something to that effect. Somebody explained it that way. And I'm not even sure if that was correct. The point I'm making is, I thought I understood our politics.
Yeah.
I no longer think I do. I think there's a large chunk of our political experience that happens in markets, in roadsides, with border communities, with all these communities that we just do not have visibility of. And you see snippets of it in the press, or in news articles. Oh, there's a protest in Bomet over this, there's a protest in where over that. And the way people in all these other communities make decisions is very different from how people in urban areas make decisions. And if you sort of understand that, it becomes easier to appreciate why some of these electoral outcomes have been the way they are. I remember reading an article, the Kenyatta affair. I was covering, I think it was Kurt Waldheim or somebody. It was an Austrian leader, ended up being part of the UN or something. Anyway, I might have gotten his name wrong. So you do a verification.
Kim.
Yeah. But I'll share the article with you and the name of the guy. But it basically it predicted that Kenyatta and Ruto will win the election.
Really?
Yes. Based on the fact that they were being cornered by the West, and this guy had committed he was suspected of committing some crimes during World War II, and he rose to be Austria's leader, and the people were now calling for his blood, and he sort of turned it around. And what I've come to realize is politics is complicated. My thinking on what forms a good leader does not relay with the person voting. My responsibility is to just make the best decision, because I've seen all sorts of things. Africa is the same continent that produced Charles Taylor, whose actual election motto was, "He killed my pa, he killed my ma, he killed my pa, but I'm a vote for him." What was his?
Ooh, yeah.
Yes, that was the slogan. That was the slogan.
Damn.
So I have come to realize that people make some decisions based on fear, others based on punishment, others, and I'm never sure where the populace lies. So I can't make any predictions. I can't.
Well, you
Oh,
can
my
tell us
neighbor.
offline what your decision is, did you?
Yeah?
Yeah.
No.
I always look at the American side. I think America has made me judge the Kenyan voter less. Because, for a very long time, I think because of Hollywood and because of also, for us as Christians, I always say the white image of God. Because of that, I always put white people like at a pedestal.
Yeah, I've done that
so I
as well.
expected them to have
Correct.
like their decisions not to be tribal.
Betrayed, yeah.
Yes. So for me to see like the race is such a big issue for them.
there, yeah.
Like we are losing, the white man is losing America, so we have to vote for the white guy, and they vote for like the dumbest white guy you can ever come across. So like the way this you saw his speech at the UN where he was complaining about the elevator stopping, and then you find out it was a safety thing because the way the camera guy was looking at him,
Yeah.
that it had to stop. Then the teleprompter thing, it was someone from the White House. Then he goes there and he goes on a rant of how he wanted to build the best UN headquarters. He was going to have marble floors and what, but they built this place that has no marble floors. Did they have terrazzo? He goes on this rant and you're like, this is the guy that America chose? Like on that, like national.
Don't you think he was a safer bet than Kamala? Kamala would have
I
pushed
don't think so.
Kamala
I
would have
think-
pushed the whole LGBTQ woke, that whole agenda.
Yes, I
and,
think
you
I
know,
think the right, the left has also gone too
left is
yes?
quite extreme.
Yes.
over there,
But even as the left has gone too left, you have to look at the fact that even Charlie Kirk.
And maybe just to correct, I'm not saying LGBTQ is wrong, but what I'm trying to say
I
is
know.
the indoctrination of those to kids,
Yeah.
educating them. You're not allowed to have a driver's license when you're 16, but you can choose your gender. That would
At
have
12.
at 12.
Yeah.
So he sort of put a stop to that.
Yes.
So I
yes.
mean, the pros and cons. Again, you can't. I
But
understand
no,
where you're
but
coming.
was he the best white guy? No, the other white Republicans that are not too
Who would have
too
stepped
cuckoo.
up against him? Like I
Too
think
cuckoo.
he was just the popular guy, Bana.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like, it was a popular guy, like Ruto was a popular guy.
Yeah,
Hustlers
correct.
versus-
Yeah.
So when you come to understand that, because I always think that we forget that politics is about emotions. So who can play with the strings of my heart as much as possible?
Correct. Yeah.
And this is the reason why we talk about other politicians who are not. Remember, like you used to say, Moi was very charismatic. So now you'll have these very good politicians, but they can't express themselves that way. Like even when I look at Maraga, I think Maraga can make a good president, but he's not
He's not
charismatic.
charismatic.
So without that, like the gift of gab, it becomes really hard because people have to love you to a certain level. You see, like someone like Raila, he's just loved.
Yeah.
Nacheki, like people just
He's got
love
the
you.
energy.
And even Ruto had that. You loved Uhuru. But nani uko zile za,
You have to have that
guy.
it factor.
Yeah. So with that in mind, that's why still, because of the emotional side, right now, like if you look at the mountain, why is Gachagua loved? Because it's of emotions. People feel like, mtu wetu alikuwa betrayed. So since you are betrayed and we hate this guy, you're the right guy for us. Because this guy betrayed you and we hate this guy. So we are going to love
We're
you.
going to love you.
So sometimes we vote against. Remember, like the way for a very long time it's been like the mountain always votes against Raila. it's never been about what I'm a what. So I think that emotional
Plays
thing,
into it as well.
yeah, so I don't know this time emotions itatupeleka wapi because there's no one to love on this other side. You see, we really hate Ruto in quotes we hate, yes. But who do we love on this other side? Kalonzo tuko 50-50, Martha Karua tuko 50-50, Gachagua mountain inampenda but nowhere else.
Nowhere else.
So you're like nani tunapenda? So
Okay, that's a good parting shot. Closing. Phares, you've been
Ama
taking.
nani
You've been.
tunapenda, nani tunapenda?
Mi sijui.
Phares is afraid to say it. But he might
No,
get to canceling
the thing
investment.
the thing is my comments generally are a bit more radical, so I keep them to myself.
Sema.
But parting shot, maybe
Yeah, no, the
something
thing
to
is-
answer Mwaf's question.
It's what I was saying. Like this population, it's complicated.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to Liberia. You know, the Samuel Doe, the president before Charles Taylor,
The guy was hacked.
he was killed in front of television,
Mm.
like on television. Like his ear was cut off, and like a whole thing.
Mm.
In 1990.
Put that clip up. No.
But the thing is, I've just looked up the Wikipedia page, and like, at the time, the fear was that if they don't vote for Charles Taylor, the war will restart.
Oh.
And so, at times, there are these underlying reasons that you don't fully comprehend,
Mm.
and that the experience certain people have of the country differs from yours,
Mm.
and this is now what causes tension between communities. Like if you look at the US, that bifurcation is getting worse. And it's because different people in that country have different experiences of the state and of their other citizens. So many times you look at the outcome politically and it looks confusing, but that's the source. And like a movie I'd ask you to watch is A Big Shot,
Yeah,
which
very good
describes,
movie, yeah.
at the end of the movie, describes what's happening in the US now.
Mm.
And you can actually tie the end of like the economic crisis of 2008 to the political turmoil, which is why I was speaking about the political economy.
Mm.
If we can fix the country for everyone, we become a more, like at the end of the day, most people, we may not understand how they're interpreting it, to my point, but most people are voting over their bread and butter issues.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Most people are trying to figure out how to improve the economies, how to improve their lives, how to improve the income. And so if you see your citizen, or somebody like you who's also trying to do the same,
Yeah.
it becomes significantly simpler to deal with them.
Sorry.
Mm.
Actually, so I think it's focusing me. Phares' sound might have come. So
Yeah.
we're good to close. Kim?
Yes.
Yeah, but I think maybe before we close, it's something that Phares has said, and it's reminded me something I had in Kisumu. The last time I went to Kisumu, and the Ruto debate started, and someone in Kisumu told me that you guys in Nairobi might say Ruto is bad, but at least he's not unleashed the police on us. You understand? So when he talks about Charles Taylor, maybe that comes to mind. That these people are like, you know what, for once, the government is not killing us. It's killing, because, you know, for all those government violence things, Kisumu has always been the part where the police kill people. And Kibera has always been that also. So, you know, for once, they're like, hey, Ruto is killing people, but
It's not
Kibra, hayuko, na hayuko Kisumu. So Sisi is not as bad as you're saying. So for them, it's like the way they say in America, that for Black Americans, the devil is a white man. You understand? Ama for South Africans who went through apartheid,
yeah.
the devil is a white man. For the Congolese, you remember the Congolese and the rubber thing? Walikuwa nakatwa mikono?
Yes.
The devil is a white man. So I think if we look at it that way, the way you've said about Charles Taylor, it makes sense for those people. And that's why I'm telling you, like, now with that, 2027 becomes very tricky, because this was a constituency that has always been anti-government. But for once, they feel like, you know what, maybe we are not being targeted as much as we were targeted by the other gava. And also that has reminded me, Nani was from which country? This, we digress kidogo tukimalizia, because you're the guy who knows history. General Butt Naked was from Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone, if I'm not wrong.
From Nini, yeah. You know that guy?
Who is this guy?
General Butt Naked. So he's just some
General
guy.
Butt
This is
Naked.
like West Africa. A few
General-
books I recommend, guys. Yeah.
Politics, man.
General Butt Naked.
Yeah,
Yes, that was his name.
So Kim, can we put General Butt Naked over here? Alito Butt Naked. What
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it?
Was
Yeah,
called
he used
Butt
to fight naked
yes.
because God protected him or something.
Yeah. And he convinced Nene Ivo, like, now, so they used to,
Wait.
so these child soldiers, he convinced them that if
No, he's
they,
Liberian as well. Liberian,
Liberian,
as well.
like, okay, if
But
they,
like
they kill
Sierra
someone,
Leone, both of them have,
yes, so he convinced them that if you kill someone and you eat their meat and then you fight naked, nothing will happen to you. Of course, the kids would believe that, and then they'd go and just be shot. But it's called General Butt Naked.
He's
he was
Liberian. He's a
cannibal.
pastor now, if I'm not wrong.
General butt naked.
Yeah, he was a cannibal.
He's a
Huko.
pastor.
So,
Yeah.
guys, Mwaf,
Yeah.
where can people find you if they don't already know?
Icon in a podcast. Hopefully soon I'll have Phares. Then I'm also thinking of another podcast of having Sajid, Farid, and E059. Sometimes I'm very happy with that energy that you guys bring.
Yeah, the
But
three.
also looking forward to Farid. I'm supposed to host Farid this coming week.
That's
I
good.
have like back pain problems. I heard him talking about how he solved his back pain. So looking forward to that. Yeah.
By then, Mwaf, I want to commend you, man. Your output.
Yeah.
Kim, umesikia?
It's my 9 to 5, man. So I don't mess around. Plus I worked, I don't know if you know, I worked on mainstream radio.
Yeah, you told me, bro.
Yeah, so I worked at YFM, worked at Ghetto Radio, worked at QFM. And those jobs, those managers don't give you a minute. Like you'll be asleep at 4 a.m. and you hear twing, and then it's your boss telling you, tomorrow make sure you do. So if I could give them 16 hours of my day, I was like, if I give the same to myself, I'll be okay.
And I love it. I love what you've become. You're sort of the voice of truth.
Yeah.
And you, as all podcasters, what I'm trying to do is we recently caught up with Mwaf at like ITW event.
Yeah.
As far as you were there as well.
Yeah,
I'm trying
really.
to mix both worlds, the IT world with the podcasting world. I'm going to probably do a Karoga.
Yeah.
I invite Akina Chucks, you guys, E059 Farid. Just Phares is going to be there. So I'll plan something on that. So I appreciate you. I thank you for doing this. Phares. My cloud guru, my secret investor in my future company.
And the historian.
Yeah, Phares. Yeah, exactly. Phares,
Yeah.
Brilliant, man. I appreciate you doing this. Where can people find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram as Kaboro.
Yes.
I
And
limited
LinkedIn.
that for that, and LinkedIn.
I'll put all Phares' details, including his house location and where he
I
stays.
have to thank Sajid, by the way. He introduced me to some guys, Choice in Parklands.
Choice meat.
Yeah.
By the way, for Nyama,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
butchery.
Yeah.
Like there's a guys called Choice Meat Supplies.
They are
They
good.
do excellent steaks. So if you're ever looking for Nyama, Choice Meat.
How
just-
far from me, plus?
You can actually walk there from here.
See, Mbali. Where is it?
Is this 5th Parklands?
Fifth Parklands.
Oh, okay.
Just such Choice Meat. Wallahi, bro,
Parklands,
nakwambia,
like
best
it's-
steaks you can ever get. All the meats are good, clean
The other
cut.
day, I got a red snapper from them. Remarkable.
Yeah, the fish they also do really well.
Then they did, like, I got a picanha from them. Picanha, ribeye, like, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm actually great. That's why I've given them a shout out on the podcast. Like, that's one of my
fantastic.
joys recently.
They actually, Windies, we have different segments. So I believe the Punjabi, I'm forgetting the name, Kasais. So they're known as butchers from Pakistan traditionally. So that's been like a generational thing that they do. So these guys have perfected that art. And these Choice Meat guys, it was a secret sauce. Now it's out in the African community. So guys, we appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next Coffee Pump episode. Cheers.